Okay, so the last thing that I'm going to illustrate is how we can style, how we can apply styles and formats to our JSP web applications, because so far they look pretty boring and pretty bland. But it's not too difficult to apply a style format to a JSP page. Okay, and what I've done is I found this website is called Max Design, and they have free CSS layouts, okay, that you can use, samples. One column fixed width layout, one column liquid layout, a bunch of different CSS layouts that you can use to customize the look and feel of a JSP web application. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you can use one of these CSS layouts in your JSP web application. And you know, on this website, first of all, what they do is they give you an illustration of what a particular layout is going to look like. So for example, the one column fixed width layout, if you apply this CSS, by the way, CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. If you apply this layout to a web page, this is what your web page is more or less going to look like. Okay, right now our web pages look like this, but in just a few moments they're going to look more like this. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to apply this CSS layout to our web page, and there's a couple of things down below. We're going to start at the bottom. This is the actual CSS code. If you've never seen what CSS code looks like, this is what CSS code looks like. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to copy this code into our NetBeans project. So I'm going to go out into NetBeans, into the web project that we were just working on, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new CSS file. Okay, so underneath of web, okay, there's an option for a cascading style sheet. I'm going to select that, push on next, and I'm going to name my cascading style sheet style, push on finish, and now I have a style.css in my web application. I have an index.jsp and I have a style.css. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out to that web page, Max Design, and I'm going to go down to the CSS code and I'm going to copy it. I'm going to copy it all. I'm going to go back into NetBeans. I'm going to paste it into this CSS file and I'm going to save it in my project. Okay. Now I want to use this in my index.jsp, and in order to use it, first of all, what I have to do is I have to link it, okay, into the file. And to link it into the file, in the head of the JSP, I have to include a link element. And I have to include some attributes to that element and some attribute values, and that's what I'm doing right now. If I don't include that link element, okay, in my index.jsp, none of the rest of the updates that I'm going to make to this JSP are going to matter, and that style is not going to be applied to my JSP page, because I don't want my JSP to look like this anymore. Okay, I want it to look more like this. Okay, so I've created a CSS file in my JSP web application, and I've copied all of this code. I've linked it into my JSP, but now what I have to do is within the HTML of my JSP, I have to include these elements that you see, like for example, div ID equals container. So I'm going to copy it from here, copy it from this web page, go back into my JSP application, and right above the body element, I'm going to include that div ID equals container, and then I have to go down and I have to close that element off. So below, I'm going to scroll down, below the body element, I'm going to include a closing div tag, just like that. Okay, so I can compile the code, I can compile the file, and what I want to do is I want to run it again. And I want to see if there have been any changes to the file. Well, there sort of has, right? Okay, if we go back to what it originally looked like, the form was over here in the left-hand corner, and now it's sort of centered, right? But I'm not done yet. What I want to do is I want to copy more of this HTML over into my JSP page. So here's this div element for header. Okay, so I'm going to copy that over into my JSP page, and that has to go right above the heading 1 element, just like that. And then I have to put a close tag. Okay, so let me compile that code again, and let me run the file again. And I'm going to go back out into the browser, and we're going to see, oh, looks a little different, right? Started off with my web page looking like that, then it looked like that, and now it looks like that. I'm not done yet. Okay, I'm going to include a navigation bar. Okay, so I'm going to copy this navigation bar, copy that. I'm going to go into my JSP right below the header div, and I'm going to copy that navigation bar. And I guess what I'm going to do, the home link, I'm going to have that point to my index.jsp. Okay, I'm going to compile the file, and I'm going to run it again. Now we can see some definite differences. There's a navigation bar, and the home page points to the index.jsp. Okay, so we started with this. We applied some style rules to our page. We had this. We applied some more style rules. We got this. We applied some more style rules, and now we have this. Not done yet. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to include this HTML content element. Okay. And that's going to go in our JSP. It's going to go right below the navigation bar. But we have to close that HTML element off, and where we're going to close it off at is right below the form. Oops, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. I should have just included a closing div like that. Okay, so we're going to close it off right there. So let's compile the code, and let's run the application again and see if it looks a little bit different. Okay, and it does. The content is moved down a little bit. Okay, so we started with this. No style rules, no formatting. We went to this, then we went to this. Then we had a navigation bar, and then we centered the form around a little bit. We're not quite done yet. We're going to include, one more thing, we're going to include a footer. Okay, so we're going to copy that footer. We're going to go into NetBeans. Okay, and we're going to include a footer right below the body, like so. We're going to compile the code again, and we're going to run it. And now we can see the footer. Okay, so we've gone from a JSP web application that has no formatting at all, okay, gradually to one that has a little bit of formatting. Now this is not fancy, but what you can do is you can go back to this Max Design web page, and you can find another layout that maybe you like better. Okay, they've got a bunch of layouts that you can choose from. Okay, bunch of layouts that you can choose from. And also what you can do is, if you wish, you can go into this CSS file, and you can define more rules for the container, for the header, okay, for the navigation bar, okay, for the footer, for the content. Also what you could do if you wanted to, you could go into your JSP, and you could include style rules in your JSP. For example, if you wanted to change the font, okay, of the page, you could include a style rule in the JSP to change the font. Okay, so a lot of different things you can do, but it's good to do this. You want your web application to be functional first and foremost. You want to be able to delete data from a database. You want to be able to display data, okay, in drop-down selection lists and in tabular fashion and whatnot. But you also want it to look good, and you can make it look better by applying CSS formats to it.